Pro Football Playbook, presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network. Your source for team news, draft needs, player profiles and rankings, full Senior Bowl, Combine, and NFL draft coverage. News, analysis, discussion. It's in the playbook. Now, here is your host, sports journalist Bill Alvstad, and featured analyst Keith Myers. Hey everyone, welcome into the Pro Football Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with Keith Myers. We're talking top 10 college running backs this week in our NFL draft show version of the podcast. Keith, welcome in. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. This is a good year for the running back class, in my opinion. And like last week, we did the quarterbacks, and it was like, this is
that
not
was
a
a
good
tough
year
list
to need
to
a
go
quarterback.
through.
This is a good year to need a running back. You're going to be able to sit back, relax, not do the stupid thing and draft a quarterback or draft a running back early. Sit back in the second, third, fourth round and get a good player. I really believe that.
Yeah, I think you can find guys that are going to be able to run between the tackles for you, guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield, height, weight, speed combo guys, as well as undersized guys that really are dynamic. You can put those guys out in space and really generate some positive plays for you, move the sticks, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a couple of running backs that really seem to be kind of the consensus guys that everybody seems to be talking about. And both of them are real nice sized guys, but they kind of bring a different feel to the game. The first guy is Isaiah Spiller. Texas A&M, 6'1", 225 pounds, runs a 4.45 40. He's a junior, got quick with that size though. He's got quick feet and just really nice short area burst, great contact balance, the vision, scheme versatility, all that kind of stuff. He's got it. Seems to me, this is just me, that he might be the most complete back in the 2022 draft. But I think that the chapters still need to be written, as they say.
He's a little tall, runs a little upright. There's going to be some concerns about, whether or not he will have a little bit of fumbleitis at the next level because of those two things. I honestly don't have those concerns about him. I think he's going to be a very good player. And, whoever
everyone had those concerns with like Angie Harris this last year, you know, and it turns out Angie Harris is a pretty darn good player.
Yeah, he is, but it's the same kind of thing, and it's been one of those things that comes up every year. Anyone that's any running back that's over 6 foot tall, there's a little bit of like, let's take a closer look, and then if they run a little more upright than you think you want, then automatically everyone jumps to, they're going to have ball security problems, and I don't know how legit that is. With him, I honestly just don't have those concerns.
It shows up repeatedly on the tape. It's not like it's, he's a fluky kind of guy. This is like a guy that's put out a lot of tape and he hasn't had those issues. He's not putting the ball on the ground.
He doesn't put the ball on the ground in college. Why is everyone so worried that he's going to put the ball on the ground as a pro?
Well, the level of competition does tend to go up. So in that same, 1A, 1B kind of boat is Breece Hall, Iowa State, again, 6'1", 220 pounds, runs a 4.39. This guy's a little bit more of a shifty, more of a dynamic home run threat kind of guy. He's definitely going to still run between the tackles, but he doesn't run nearly as hard and tough as Spiller does. Spiller kind of seeks out contact, whereas Breece Hall kind of tries to avoid contact. In fact, Spiller's a better pass blocker, stays in the pocket and protects the quarterback a little better out in space. He's a willing blocker. Breece Hall just kind of stands there and gets in the way, more or less. And so he's going to have to work on that when he goes to the pro level. That's why I had Spiller up at the top. Both these running backs, though, I think could definitely come in and start right away in the NFL.
You know who Hall reminds me of? He gives me a Alvin Kamara vibe. A guy who wasn't drafted nearly high enough.
This guy's so much bigger though.
Yeah, but he's got that shiftiness, that speed, that ability to take anything to the house, and is a complete player in terms of his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and be a dynamic player, both running the ball outside, running the ball inside, and receiving the ball. I think he's going to be good too. I mean, he's just a guy. They're different backs, and they need different systems. I mean, if you're running a
Breece Hall needs space.
If you're running an inside zone game, you don't want Breece Hall. If you're running an outside zone game, he could be really good.
Yeah, really good. And I tell you what, too, once he does get into traffic, he's hard to bring down. You know, he's the epitome of the patience, balance, burst kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And the only Power 5 running back with more broken tackles over the last 2 seasons were Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, and Angie Harris, all top 35 picks last year.
Yeah,
and this guy's in the same kind of boat. The shiftiness, the awareness, the vision. He just makes guys miss. And somebody's going to take a chance on this guy and think that they might have to work on the maturity levels a little bit. The willingness to come in and block, that sort of temperament that you need to have in the NFL. They're going to expect that. Breece Hall is going to have to develop that. So I think that's why he probably falls maybe to the middle or to the end of the second round. But that's just me right now. Those things could change. He could come up. I just don't see a first round running back out of this group that we're talking about today.
Well, true. But honestly, the running back position is so devalued across the NFL. I think the idea of a first round running back, unless they are just an insanely special player, is over. Like, this is a position where it's like guard, right? You're taking them the end of round 1, early round 2 at the earliest. And I mean, people will disagree with that. Some people will be like, that's still too early. But I think we've reached that point. And that's kind of where we're at.
So we've reached the level of the show, Keith, where now it's just a bunch of jumbled names to me.
Not like really. I think there's one guy. I think there's one guy that we need to include as maybe option 1C. And here's the problem. He is injured. He is not going to play the rest of this year. It's all going to come down to his medicals and whether or not he can run at the combine and all of that. But Oregon running back CJ Verdell looks like he could be a special player. If he hadn't gotten hurt in that Stanford game, to me, he was 1A. He was the guy. He was the one special player that I would have said that's a first round pick. Not like Ezekiel at top 5 first round pick, but like, someone you're picking in 24, 25, and you need a running back and he's sitting there. That's where I had him. That's where I think he belongs. But
yeah, I can see that.
Big injury. Now he's going to drop a little bit. Maybe he's there at the end of round 2. Same idea. The kid's good. The kid's special.
He's good, but is he a good fit in the NFL at that size? What is he, like 5'9", 190?
What's Alvin Kamara?
So that'll be the interesting thing, is how teams would want to use him. Even if he's like the 3rd or 4th best running back, just as a pure runner, when you get into the NFL, a guy like that's definitely going to be a specialist. A guy that's not an every down, not a 3rd down, not a 3 down back, right? Or am I wrong?
It depends on the offense, because he's a guy you want in there on 3rd down, because as a receiver and as a dynamic guy, he could take that swing pass out on the outside or outlet pass.
So do you think he's better than Kyron Williams out of Notre Dame as the best receiving back out of the backfield in the class?
He's the most talented Unfortunately there's only so much film on him because his 2020 tape was okay, but he didn't get that many opportunities, and now he's injured. So I don't know. Verdell's probably going to go later in the draft because of the injury, and because
he was injured the year prior too, wasn't he?
Yeah, we've only got like 6 games of really good game tape on him, but I honestly believe that he is a guy who he may be taken in the 4th round, but you're going to get really good production out of him.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think he'll carve a role in the NFL, maybe on special teams at first until he gets a chance, but
I think he
could be that guy.
I think he's better than that. I think you get him in a training camp and you're going to have a hard time keeping him off the field.
So what are your thoughts on like a Kenneth Walker or a Brian Robinson, a couple other bigger guys that are out there? Robinson's at 6'1", 228 pounds. He's got 4 yards after contact per carry, total, power back through and through, right? But he just, he just doesn't have a lot of production yet. And then a guy like Kenneth Walker, is on some people's list, maybe a little higher. Some top 5 lists. I probably have him in the 4th roundish spot right now, but
really,
it's so early, Keith. It just is. It's early to kind of mark these guys in somewhere. There's just going to be a lot of movement here in the next probably 90 days that it's hard to forecast.
And I haven't had a chance to evaluate him at the level that I will when we get closer to the draft. I've seen him play a couple times, and obviously I've seen Oregon play more, and that's part of the reason why I'm so high on Verdell. I've only seen Michigan State play a couple times this year, and I was impressed. Like this is a guy who's got the size. He is hard to tackle. He just runs through guys. Just a dominant guy who is currently like just eating yards and just eating teams. A big part of why Michigan State has been up competing for a college football playoff spot. I mean, he's been the catalyst of their offense. I don't know if he has that long speed to take a run up the middle, make one guy miss, and then be gone for 45-yard touchdown. But not every team needs the guy to have that. You can get 15 yards, 18 yards on the well-blocked runs, and 3 on the poorly blocked runs. God, that's a productive player at the NFL.
Yeah, no, I mean he started so fast this year. Led the first 5 games, led college football in rushing yards per game, rushing touchdowns, all that kind of stuff.
Didn't he have like 913 yards through 5 games?
That's crazy, right?
That's insane.
So it's definitely one of those things you keep track on, especially since Michigan State is in the top probably 6 teams right now. He's going to have a role to play in a large bowl game as well. And it will only increase his status as a guy that can come in and rise up the ranks, so to speak, of everybody's draft boards. Any other players that you want to talk about? Just pull them out at this point, because I do have them kind of in an order. You've got Kyron Williams. I've already talked about that. Devante Price out of Florida International is kind of interesting. Brian Robinson again at Alabama, I thought is pretty interesting. People are starting to talk about him. Pierre Strong out of South Dakota State. Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA is a guy as well. I'll
let you pronounce that name.
Charbonnet. Yeah, at least that's the way I'm looking at it. So it's just there's a bunch of guys, and I think
about Tyler Algier from BYU. Guy with straight line speed at 5'11", 220. That his build says power back, but once he gets past that first level, he can run away from you. So, I think he'd be a great player in the right zone blocking scheme, especially like an inside zone blocking scheme where he can get to the line of scrimmage quickly, read what's going on at the second level with guys coming off blocks to block linebackers, and then put his foot in the ground and go. I think he could really excel in that role.
Yeah, no, you're in speed for days, and 5'11", 220 pounds, with that power as well, ability to bulldoze you. But there's more to just the brute force in his game, where he's an explosive guy. He's got great burst, great vision. He gets the big plays there. He just plays at BYU, so you just kind of have to figure that out.
Yeah.
To whether that translates into bigger competition. And I can't remember if he's a junior or senior, but it'd be nice to see a guy like that get to like the Senior Bowl, for example, where you can face a better defenders consistently for a week in practices there and then in the game. Something like that I think might be beneficial for a player like that, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, this year is actually a good year for evaluating BYU players because they beat up on the mid-tier Pac-12 schools, in the non-conference schedule, which was pretty impressive. I mean, I get that the Pac-12 is down this year. This is not a great Pac-12 year, but they beat up on a bunch of those mid-tier Pac-12 schools, and you're going to see a lot. Those are teams that are going to produce NFL talent, and so you've got BYU players playing against NFL talent in places. So I think it's not a normal year as far as evaluating BYU. I think we have a better view of who their players are than we would in other seasons.
So I think with the Najee Harris thing coming out of Alabama and so forth, and then Alabama having kind of a down year this year, it's taken a little while for a guy like Brian Robinson to emerge there. He's a junior. But tremendous size, the Najee Harris size, basically at 6'1", 228, ran a 4.55. It'd be nice if he could try to squeak that down into the 4.49 range at his pro day or at the combine. But here's a big, strong downhill runner that a lot of NFL teams still favor. And I've read that a lot of NFL personnel folks view him in the second round area if he should declare and come out. Now, being a junior, he can do that, but he can also return if he wants to and be the guy again and raise that draft stock. But I don't know if you do that this year if you're already projected in round 2 or 3.
No, and especially as a running back, there's only so much tread on the tires, right? If you are projected in day 1 or day 2 of the draft, and as a junior, you come out because another year. And then people start questioning, well, how much time does he have left? Because he's already had, so many carries in college, and there's just such a huge risk of injury at that particular position, like more so than other positions. So I would, if I was him, I would say you need to come out, go make your money, because being the guy at Alabama for another year, you're going to raise your draft stock enough that you might break even in terms of the money loss. You're better off to come in on a lower contract, get to that free agency year earlier, and just come out and play. So
a couple of backs, one in particular I really like is Devante Price out of Florida International. He's not going to get a lot of press. He's at a smaller school, but at 6'2", 225, runs a 4.5 40, could possibly get into the 4.4 range. Projected to go anywhere from round 3 to round 5, I think. A guy that has all the height, weight, speed type things going for him. I think in 2020 he averaged 6.8 yards per carry on only 85 carries, and turned that into 581 yards, 4 touchdowns in just 5 games. He's built well and has some quickness and size, and I think that could be a guy that you're going to watch go up the draft boards a little bit for that mid-tier talent that's value oriented. in the draft, and a guy like Zach Charbonnet as well, out of UCLA. I mentioned him earlier, 6'1", 220. Again, as a guy that runs right around 4.5, is still in that same range again. And he's kind of a chunk play guy, in that Pac-12 conference where it's not as competitive as you want it to be. That's a name to watch. How about you? You got any guys where you just you don't know where to fit them in?
Yeah. I'm really struggling to figure out where I want to place, Tyler Goodson out of Iowa. The guy's great at receiving the ball out of the backfield, just good balance and shows his film is good, but then you look at his box score numbers and his stats and you're like, right? I mean, it's just never impressive, but then you watch some plays, especially if you catch like a highlight reel and you see patience and burst and explosiveness. And he's such a great receiver and good hands with the ball, like, poorly thrown balls, and he manages to, get up and
he is a very good running back out of the backfield.
And so you see a lot of that, but at the same time, his production is not real impressive. So where does he go? I need more time. My evaluation from him is incomplete, and that's as best as I could get, but I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, there are some lists that have him in the top 10, and I'm just not quite there with him yet. There's a number of backs, probably 20 or 25 backs that are in that 25 to 10 range, where there's just going to be a ton of movement between now and the draft, when we really have a chance to go over film, have a chance to listen to other evaluators that really do a great job evaluating draft talent, to kind of get them in ranges that we know that they're going to be available. And they need to go through that process too. A lot of these guys will find out that they don't have a draft grade, and they'll go back, so we'll eliminate a lot of this list too as time goes on. I'm just trying to think. I'm looking over my list here and trying to figure out if there's anybody else that I want to talk about. Boom, boom, boom.
Well, let me ask you this. You're a team that needs a running back, right? You run a team that needs a running back. You aren't a team, Bill, but you're the GM of a team that needs a running back.
Yeah.
A team like there's a bunch of them.
There's a few. Yeah.
Miami, Seattle. There's a bunch, right?
Yeah. As much as Seattle wants to run the ball, they sure are lacking in that department for guys that are able to.
Yeah, because exactly. I mean, there's so many
Breece Hall or Isaiah Spiller would be a perfect fit for those folks, but the fan base in Seattle would kill John Schneider for drafting a running back anywhere close to round 2 or above.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
You're in one of those teams, and you have other holes to fill, right? So you're not gonna use your first round or your second round pick on a running back.
Brian Robinson came up as available in the 4th round, for example, where Seattle, I think, may have like a couple of picks. You would use one on a guy that could come in. I think Chris Carson is there for another year. He's under contract. I don't know that he's tied to the team. I think they could move on from him if they so choose, or if he's unable to continue to play. He's got kind of a neck injury there. But they need a guy. They have to have their offense dictates that they have to have a running back there that can carry the load, a 3-down running back, and that would be definitely a team. Miami, again, is a team that you're looking at there. There's a lot of teams that want to be able to run the ball effectively in the NFL. And there's going to be a lot of running backs, I think, this year that's going to be able to help a lot of different teams in those middle rounds. There's just a lot of value there, especially at the running back position. And we've seen that over the years, that you can get great value even all the way to the 7th round with some of these guys, especially when you're looking for a guy that just does one thing really well. Whether that's pick up short yardage at the goal line or it's receiving the ball out of the backfield. The guys that do everything really well, those are the guys that are going to go in the second and third round this year.
I will say this. The NFL is as bad at evaluating college running backs as draft analysts like me. And I'm terrible at it. Literally, I have always considered running back like a weakness in my scouting background because there's a lot of misses. But then I look at the NFL when you have guys like Sony Michel that looked like really good picks at the end of round one. You're like, okay, this is going to be a great fit, and he just does not panned out as anything. The pick right before him in the same draft was Rashad Penny in Seattle, who's been an absolute waste of a draft pick.
And then you have Nick Chubb.
Yeah, then just sticking with Seattle, their star running back was a 7th rounder, and there's so many different guys like James Conner in Arizona, I believe was a 6th round pick. I mean, there seems to be as many late round picks that are starting running backs as there are early round picks. There's so many misses at that position.
Yeah, I think really what you're seeing really too is just a lot of teams are depending on 2 or 3 guys to carry the load too. It's not very often now that you're seeing guys that are 1,700 yard carry bell cow type guys for teams. I mean, can you even name one?
Saquon Barkley,
well, you know what I mean.
Derrick
Henry. But those guys
are
really
probably
aren't
the 3
putting those things up. Like Henry runs so hard he gets hurt. He's and one of my favorite players in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I mean, but like there aren't a lot. It used to be that every team had their guy, like their.
Who I thought was going to be the next guy. Honestly, it was Cam Akers for the Rams.
Yeah, but then he had such a terrible injury this year.
Brutal.
We'll see.
We'll see if he comes back. But
and
he will.
Before that injury, he looked like a guy who could have been special.
Yes.
And I was disappointed that the injury, not because I'm like, oh, well, I can't believe he got injured, but no, it was like, now I'm disappointed because I don't get to watch him run because he's a good player. That is
he would have really made that offense even more dynamic than it already is. And Darrell Henderson does a good job there.
Yeah, he does a good job, but he isn't special. And Cam Akers is special, and there's a difference. Teams have to load the box to try and slow down Cam Akers, and that would just make that offense.
So if you want special and you're in the NFL, do you purposefully go and take a guy like Isaiah Spiller or Breece Hall that is going to make the difference on your roster, even though you'd have to go up and spend a 2nd round pick to do so?
I don't know. If you do that, can you get similar production out of a guy in the 4th round or the 5th round? I mean, you can look at.
I guess it really depends on the importance of that running back in your offense.
The analytics guys out there, and I know that some of you will groan the fact that I even bring them up, but
especially on this show, that's like, ooh.
Yeah, but the analytics guys will tell you that the drop off in production from dropping from the 2nd round to the 4th and the talent level is nothing compared to what you would get if you take the difference in production of a defensive end in the early 2nd versus the 4th. You're better off getting one of those harder to fill positions that early in the draft because you can make anyone, almost anyone, a productive back if you run your offense right. And so there just isn't that drop off in production. That doesn't mean there's not a drop off in talent. That's the key word though, is production. And I don't completely buy into all that because I've seen, you go that mentality comes from the Denver Broncos in the Kiffin when he was running the offense there years when they would just plug and play anyone and they would get a 1,200 yard back in there.
Yeah, and Denver used to do the same thing.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean you look at those and that's kind of where that mentality comes from. But I've also seen offenses that just they lose their engine, their tone setter, and suddenly nothing works. Right? They just don't block as well. They don't. The receivers don't seem to be as open. Just everything falls apart. So I think what you're going to find in reality is going to be somewhere in the middle. That you need to have a certain level of talent at their position, but the difference between that I'm going to air quote minimum talent, which is actually still pretty dang talented, and the truly elite running backs in the league, like the Ezekiel Elliott's, I don't know if there's a big enough difference to justify going up and using an early first round pick on a guy. I think you might be better off taking a more important position, and
certainly a lot of teams have adopted that. There's just no question, and it's proven to kind of work for most. There are still those at the top though that if you have an opportunity to get, and you have the extra draft capital, it's nice to be able to, and a luxury to, I think, to be able to go and get one of those guys.
There's no team in the NFL that wouldn't want Ezekiel Elliott if they didn't have to give right. If you didn't have to give up that top draft pick to get him, you'd take him. You'd take that level of talent. So that to what teams is that talent worth that investment? And that this is a debate that could go on for years. We could be talking for hours and hours and hours and not come to a resolution. So
I wanted to make everyone aware on some upcoming shows. On the NFL side of things, we're going to do who's in, who's out on the playoff push next week. And then we're also going to do top 2 teams in each division the week after that. The next 2 shows coming up for the draft side of the show is top 10 college wide receivers. Mm-hmm. And then the Thanksgiving special edition of the show is going to be top 10 college teams. So we're going to do our own top 10 regardless of the AP or whatnot, and see if we can kind of predict maybe the bowl games.
Yeah.
Who's in, who's out.
Especially the playoff. Especially the college football play. This year has been really fun. It has been really fun, especially with all those Big Ten teams at the top. You got 3 of them, right there, but they're all going to beat up on each other before the season's over, and so one of them has to rise to the top. And it has been a lot of fun watching college football this year.
All right, we're going to get out of here, and want you to definitely follow Keith on Twitter. Keith is at Myers NFL. I'm at Alvstad NFL. You can find the show at PF_playbook on Twitter. ProFootballPlaybook.co is the website. You can also find us on your favorite podcast apps. We're on iTunes now. Megaphone FM is where the show is hosted. And you can find us on our own YouTube channel. So if you're listening to it and you're finding it out there and it's about the NFL, it's going to be in the playbook. Thanks for listening to the Pro Football Playbook Podcast. Follow Keith at Myers NFL. Phil is at Alvstad NFL. The show is at PF_playbook. Listen and subscribe on your favorite podcast app or YouTube and at our website, profootballplaybook.co.